Hello, and welcome to our special series of Green Elephant interviews during March 2021, supporting the annual B Corps month. B corporations, or B Corps for short, are businesses that meet the highest standards of verified social and environmental performance, public transparency and legal accountability to balance profit and purpose. Throughout March, we are chatting with key people in companies which have chosen to certify as B Corps and become a force for good. Today, I've been joined by Andy Hawkins from Business on Purpose. Now, Business on Purpose was founded in 2020, possibly 2019. I'll talk to you about that in a second, and envisions a global economy that uses business as a force for good. To help achieve this, the company supports private, public and charity sector organisations to balance people, planet, profit and purpose in what they do. Business on Purpose is a pending B Corporation, which we'll have a chat about. Andy is founder and Chief Purpose Officer of Business on Purpose. There's a lot of purposes in there. Andy, we'll have to talk about that first, I think. Andy has been helping businesses develop since when I met him as a young lad. And that was me being a young lad, not necessarily you. Having taken a break to do community development work in Africa for 7 years, he returned and worked as business development manager for a range of companies, culminating in applying all those skills, and probably a few new ones I expect, into purpose-based consultancy. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, Russell. Nice to see you again after all these years.
After all these years, let's not go into that. I feel very old talking to you for some reason. So I mentioned purpose. I mentioned purpose quite a lot in that. Purpose, obviously very important to you. Why?
Why is a great one, and one of my favorite books is Simon Sinek, Start with Why.
Start with Why, yeah.
So that's a great place to kick off this this chat together. So, you know, why you do things is really important and central to what makes you get up in the morning. And you know, my why is to try and help people and help businesses, and that is my purpose. Hence, pursuing that and trying to help businesses do that in a more managed, focused and purposeful way.
So that's great. What about why? How do perhaps then how? Let's go on to the other bit of science. Maybe we'll talk about the what as well later. But how did you come to this realization that purpose was important to you?
I think it's doing stuff to help people and care has always been in my DNA, you know, since I was brought up as a kid, really. In 2004, I went with my family out to Africa, and we did what we thought was a gap year that turned into 7 years out in Africa, working in a township and just building various different community development projects out there. Eventually then came back to the UK 2010, 2011, and got back into the corporate world and did some amazing things, you know, electrical recycling and IT recycling and lots of great things. But I always felt that a little bit of the purposeful piece of jigsaw was missing.
Right.
And that was why eventually, you know, X years later, I decided to launch Business on Purpose to really try and tick that box and utilize my passions and my skill sets and my relationships to optimize helping organizations do exactly that and be a force for good.
Yeah, I mean, purpose is quite important. I mean, we call ourselves businesses, B Corps, but businesses with purpose, or be the change and other such phrases. But purpose is a difficult one for. Is it difficult to get businesses to find their purpose?
I think it's difficult to get them to articulate it in a succinct way. So they'll often be able to talk about it. You know, if I say to people, do you want to use your business as a force for good?
Yeah.
They'll say yes. You know, virtually every business owner would say yes. Every shareholder would say yes. But then when you say, well, why do you want to do that? Then that's something that they need to spend some time thinking about and understanding and unwrapping a little. And, you know, partly we do that, but there's lots of branding consultancies and, you know, digital agencies out there who make a living out of helping organizations understand what their purpose is. And I think traditionally a business would come back and say, we make widgets and our purpose is to make profit, to pay people and employ people.
Yeah.
That's our purpose. Whereas increasingly now, I think businesses are seeing that they've got a purpose that is beyond profit and are moving into a purpose that includes people and planet as well as profit.
Is that because they're being driven by their customers or their consumers or their members? Because I know you work across charities as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think, you know, the world is waking up, whether it's buying fair trade, you know, which
Yeah.
has been around for a decade now, but people are more educated around that. Whether it's, you know, the Greta effect or the David Attenborough effect of people being more educated and
Yeah.
understanding about, you know, the climate challenges and biodiversity challenges that are out there. I think we've got a more educated audience. And even though some would say, I don't care, or there's not a lot I can do to change it, I think there's an increasingly large section of the public and of the world who say, well, we do want to do something about it, and we want to buy from and be part of companies who have got that same raison d'etre.
Yeah, and I mean that does bring us, I suppose, to the B Corp movement, which is obviously growing at quite a speed now. It's 3,800 and something companies in the world across 75 countries, and B Corps. You've moved and you've looked at B Corps and moved to become towards the B Corp assessment. Why did you make that choice?
Well, I'm a massive fan of fair trade. You know, that's why I buy a particular bar of chocolate or a particular bottle of wine, you know, is because it's fair trade certified. And I want to support the organizations that think that that's important. And so when I started my company, I wanted to go through B Corp certification myself. I did that. It was a really interesting journey and surfaced a whole load of things that I'd never even really thought about. But having gone through that, because I was only, my company was in startup mode, so I was less than a year old.
Yeah.
That was why we've gone B Corp pending. So I'm going to be producing my first year's annual accounts over the next month or two. And once I've got those annual accounts
Yeah.
certified, then I will switch from being B Corp pending to being full B Corp certified, and I'll recertify as a full B Corp at that stage. But what I wanted to do and go through the B Corp pending was because it set everything up from the get-go so that my processes and policies and ethics and direction were all heading in that right direction, and it would make going B Corp certified a much more simplified process than if I tried to re-engineer that 1 or 2 years down track.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, just to make that clear, starting up a business as immediately B Corp certified is not possible. So the point you brought there was the fact you need to be a for-profit company. This isn't for not-for-profit companies. Probably unfortunately, but I understand why, because the idea is balancing the profit. Did you find the B Corp assessment tricky then, or was it just a great learning experience for you?
I did find it tricky. You know, I found it stretching, it's fair to say, and I found it extremely comprehensive. That's a double-edged sword because, you know, some people would see that as a tool that is just too challenging or one step beyond them. But what was nice was getting to the end of it and becoming B Corp certified. I felt a lot more happy and convinced in myself that it was a standard that was worth having, and it wasn't just a tick box exercise, far from that, and that I could have a high degree of confidence that companies that were B Corp certified really put their money where their mouth was and put, you know, their heart into the thing to actually be a force for good rather than a bit of greenwashing on their marketing.
Oh, well, thanks for bringing that phrase up again. Or purpose washing is one that I've heard of late as well, which is really an interesting twist. Is that you can make your purpose look more sustainable, more just by changing your vision or your mission, maybe. And that is that the way. That's interesting because you mentioned to me in discussions we had before was about ESG as as something you help businesses with, which perhaps solidify their purpose a bit more into action. Can you just explain what ESG is?
For sure. So if we talked earlier about making people and profit, people and planet at the same level of priority as profit
Yeah,
is, in that people and planet piece, when we dissect it, it comes under the headings of environment, social impact, and governance.
yeah,
So ESG is environment, social, and governance. And if a company can audit themselves, measure themselves, then they're in a place where they can improve themselves. If you're not measuring it, it's difficult to improve it. And so measuring your ESG and reporting on it in a transparent way is something that's really healthy. Now, at the moment, there is only a small percentage of companies around the world and in the UK that do annually report on their ESG, but there is some pending upcoming legislation which is going to encourage all companies to report on their ESG.
yeah,
So if companies are in that space and then they're thinking, well, how am I going to report on my ESG? Then the B Corp tool, the impact assessment that you go through for B Corp certification, is just a fantastic ESG measurement and reporting tool. So if companies are thinking about what they're going to do for ESG, then B Corp is a great route for them to follow.
okay. So is this, to be clear, ESG, is this something that small businesses are going to be required to do, or is this really just the footsie?
No, it's going to be it's going to be something that the Better Business Act is going to try and encourage all companies to do. So in theory, in the Companies Act already in section 172, there is ESG speak, but because it's buried within section 172,
Yeah,
hardly anybody ever sees it or knows about it. So what the Better Business Act will do is just elevate that ESG piece into a company's articles and objects so that it's more missional and more central to what they're doing, and will encourage companies to therefore report on it. And it will give business owners, boards, employees, suppliers, an awful lot more visibility as to how that company is performing, not just in terms of its profits, but also in terms of its people and planet or ESG metrics.
yeah, that's interesting. I think the thing about ESG is it requires and really about any element of sustainability and business management. Really, is we're talking about good business management more than anything. Is if you can measure it, as you said, you can manage it and can control it and perhaps change it for the better. Do you think it's that companies are embracing this, or do you think they're just waiting to be told they have to do it, like a VAT return and a annual tax return or whatever?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of that to it. You know, people will see it as perhaps an additional layer of bureaucracy, like the VAT tax return.
Yeah,
I kind of liken it to, you know, wearing seatbelts, you know, and when the seatbelt law became law, you know, now looking back, you think, well, why wouldn't I wear a seatbelt? And it's just kind of second nature. And I think that there's a little bit of that to it, that initially for the first couple of months, people thought, why am I having to put on a seatbelt?
yeah,
Why is a policeman going to give me a fine if I don't wear a seatbelt? But now it's kind of just part of social culture and everyone does it. And if people don't, you kind of now think that there's something a bit strange about them not doing that. And I think ESG reporting is going to be something very similar, that initially there's going to be a bit of pushback on it. And do I
yeah,
really need to do that? And why am I going to do that? But within a fairly short period of time, I think people are going to realize that, you know, we need to be valuing the planet more, and the environment piece will help us do that. We need to be valuing people, you know, whether that's our employees, our community, our suppliers, our clients. We need to be valuing them more no matter where they are, whether they're local or
Mm.
international. And you obviously need governance, good governance, to make sure that that is happening in a transparent and open and an honest way. So I think all three of those are really important. And I think that, yes, if it's legislated, some companies might not be too keen, but I think that there will be a wave of consumers and B2B customers who will say, this is what we expect and this is what we want,
Yeah.
and doing anything less than that is not acceptable anymore.
No, no, that's got to be the main driver in to many companies, is if their consumers and their customers and their members start moving away from them because they're not doing something, even if it's a voluntary reporting,
Yeah,
and people start going, "Oh, you know what, that's not good enough."
you're absolutely right. I mean, certainly there's been quite a lot of studies by large consultancy practices
Yeah,
around staff attraction, staff retention, which
yeah,
have all got huge costs attached to them. And if businesses can reduce those costs, then it's going to improve their profitability. And I think the key message that I've got for companies is that increasing focus on people and planet is not necessarily going to negatively impact your profit. Far from it. I think the other way, if you look at companies who put purpose, people, and profit in the center of what they're doing, the profits do increase. And there's been a lot of studies to prove that is the case. So it's not something that I think is going to cost you as a business in the long term. I think it will make you more resilient, make your brand more attractive, and you'll be doing good as far as people and planet are concerned. So there's not an awful lot of downsides to it as far as I can see.
no, see, that's interesting to hear, because see, the first thing you look at when you put a strategy for, so we're going to become more sustainable, we're going to have a purpose, and we're going to, we're going to go for a B Corps, and people immediately just see overhead pounds racking up in cost. But there is a benefit at the end of it. It's not just about feeling good and having the logo on your
100%.
page.
I mean, there's a massive amount of learning that goes on as you go through the process. You surface a whole load of really valuable insights that can help you potentially mitigate risk in your business. And all business owners want to manage and reduce risk to their business of being
Yeah,
blindsided and caught out. So I think as a process, the impact assessment is a great way of surfacing and understanding and mitigating risk.
yeah,
It's also a great way of understanding and communicating with your client base. What is great about your brand, what is differentiating. I mean, I'm helping dozens of companies go through the impact assessment.
yeah.
And one of the marketplaces that I'm helping through at the moment is I've got a number of recruiters that are going through the impact assessment.
Oh, okay, yeah,
And recruiters perhaps, historically have not had a good reputation. But
no,
obviously these recruiters have decided that going through B Corp is going to be a way that I can actually prove to the public, my clients, my suppliers,
yes,
that we are a recruitment organization that does take ESG seriously. We're a different type of recruiter and we want to be for good. And so in that kind of marketplace, something like B Corp certification is hugely valued to them to differentiate
yeah.
themselves from the rest.
So it could be that becomes almost in a marketplace flooded with that particular activity and nuanced how you do it, whether it's online and personal account managers, whatever. But having that B Corp uh, badge, which shows that you've proven you are doing things in balance, is going to be your unique, almost a unique selling point. And eventually,
Absolutely.
it will then become, if you haven't got it,
Yeah,
you'll go out of business.
for sure. And Mark Carney, the ex governor of the Bank of England, has said, if you're not doing this, you will be going out of business. He's been very black and white and blatant about it.
Yeah.
But it's not just about getting the badge. Another group of clients that I've got are, I'll say, digital agencies. So marketing,
Yes.
social media, PR. Those guys are helping companies with their branding. They're helping their clients build their brand. And what I've found with those B Corp agencies is they are able to have a completely different conversation from the get-go with their clients about values and ethics and what matters. And
Yeah.
so it changes their pitch. So instead of just pitching on, we've got some great graphic designers, or
Yeah.
we've got great UI developers, or whatever it might be, they're actually talking about fundamentally important things that resonate with the businesses that they're pitching to. So that's another real positive piece that I found from some of the clients that I've been helping with this.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's good. So what gets your goat then now? What why are you just happy and that things are progressing at a good rate, and people are changing over and everything's great?
Yeah, there's two things. Ever since I've been quite young, there's two things that if anyone ever asks me what gets your goat, it's two things. One is injustice. I hate injustice. And the other thing is apathy.
Okay.
And there's a lot of challenges in this world, be it climate challenges or diversity and inclusion, or gender balanced workforce, all of these things that are just not right. And so they appeal to my sense of injustice and get me motivated and mobilized from a sense of injustice. And then the other thing that really gets me going is, we do come across a lot of apathy towards people and planet flavored issues. And I want to be a catalyst in shaking that up and encouraging and challenging companies through the B Corp process is a great way of challenging that malaise and that it's not too bad, is it, type attitude, to say, actually, things do need to be improved and you can be
Yeah.
part of it. You be part of the solution or be part of the problem. Make your choice. But if you're being part of the solution, then doing something like B Corp is a great structured way of actually doing that, rather than just thinking about it for a while and then really not doing an awful lot. I think the B Corp framework is a great way to actually step you through in a purposeful way, a way of making those changes.
Uh, and I suppose is it impossible to be apathetic with a purpose?
I think it is difficult to be apathetic with a purpose. And if you are apathetic, then I would question, what is your purpose? And
That's
you need
right. Yeah,
to
yeah.
have a
Because
bit
if you have
more.
a purpose, I mean, that brings me on to one thing you've got on your website, which is the Ikigai,
Yeah.
which I've seen is very similar to Stephen Covey's Eighth Habit as well. He uses a very similar model. Perhaps you could just run us through Ikigai a second.
Yeah. So Ikigai is a
Oh,
Japanese
Ikigai.
concept.
Thank you.
Ikigai is a Japanese concept
Ikigai.
discovered really in a very small area within Japan, where the whole population really practice Ikigai. And interestingly, that area of Japan has got the longest lived people. So there is,
Oh,
there's something scientific attached to it, that people who are happiest and are operating in their Ikigai, their sweet spot, actually do live longer. Now, that could be, due to a number of other factors. I'm not claiming it's all to do with Ikigai, but it's definitely part of it.
yeah,
And what Ikigai basically says is, take something that you are passionate about,
yeah.
take something that you are good at, take something that you've got, that the world is prepared to pay for, because you need that in a business, and take something that you've got that knowledge piece with. So if you've got something that you're knowledgeable about, that you're passionate about, and that you're good at, that could be charity work, but you're not getting paid at that stage.
Yeah,
The benefit with Ikigai is that you're delivering all of this fantastic value and you're getting paid for it as well. And that's the place that I'm finding myself in now, is that I am helping all these companies be more purposeful, with the knowledge and skills that I've developed over the years. It's something that the world absolutely needs, more now than ever before.
yeah.
And it's something that, I can make a living by helping clients go through this process, and in turn improve their people, planet, and profit.
Yeah, I do like it as a model, and as I said, it's a similar model in the Eighth Habit with Stephen Covey, and I'm sure there's others. But that kind of sweet spot, or the reason for being, that it emanates, I thought was, it was nice to be reminded of it again, because
Yeah.
it's very very easy if you to forget. You can end up doing something you get paid for, which the world might need, but you're really good at something else. And if you get that divide, you're never going to be happy at work and happy at home, because at home you're doing something you can't afford to do, and at work you're doing something you don't love doing. And I do like that concept of balance across it. When I do think it kind of brings us back to our purpose discussion, is having that purpose, a reason for being, which I like. Brilliant. So just asking three specific questions. Why? Can you just summarize quickly? Why did you become a B Corp? Why did you decide to go down that route?
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, really, I'd always loved fair trade. I thought fair trade was a really
Mm,
fantastic thing for chocolate, coffee, tea, and wine. But I couldn't really find anything that was an equivalent for business
yeah,
until I came across B Corp. And so the easiest way to describe B Corp is to business what fair trade is to coffee. And I wanted my business to be that certified, externally good, ethical company.
yeah, yeah. That's great. So, and that, and just to reiterate, and you've said it already, but I just want to make this clear to the listeners that haven't perhaps pursued the assessment up to now. And let's be clear, once again, you can go through the assessment at no cost. You can see the full assessment, but out of that, you can actually see it. Was it a walk in the park? Was the certification a walk in the park?
No, it absolutely was not a walk in the park. And, and once I'd certified, I then had a couple of friends who had businesses they wanted to certify. And so they reached out and asked me, can I help them certify, which I was happy to do and share my
Yeah,
experience. And then more and more. And, now I've helped dozens through this process. And there is a real appetite, but there is a massive need. I was chatting to one client literally late last week, and she said that apart from me helping her to go through the impact assessment, she'd found that the journey together had really educated her. She'd found it was a massive education piece. And before she started, she thought she knew quite a lot, but having gone through the impact assessment process with me, it's kind of just educated her and shone a light on so many areas that education piece for her has been, priceless, really.
yeah, and I think that's because people, I think, sometimes go into something like this thinking it's a little bit, I don't know, tree huggy, or it's going to be one particular thing. But this is multifaceted. This assessment, it digs into everything from your transparency and your governance through to how you treat your people and how you treat your customers, and also then your impact on the planet and the environment as well. So it's not.
It's fair to say that, it doesn't leave any stones left unturned. And even if some of those stones, when you turn them over, are not particularly fantastic, let's be honest, then the B Corp framework gives you a route map as to what you can do to improve in that particular area.
Yeah,
I think that's really healthy. It's not saying, the object of this is not perfection. The object of this is progress rather than perfection.
yeah, yeah, nice.
So that's a message that you'd really want to communicate to people is if you don't think you are a super organization that is got saving the planet at its heart and looking after your people and all of that, that's absolutely fine at the moment. Take the impact assessment and see those areas that you can potentially improve on.
Yeah, yeah,
There's no embarrassment about this. No one else sees your
tease it.
score
No,
or how you're doing. This is something that you can do and, just find out how you're actually doing. And once you're measuring it, then you can improve it.
brilliant. Okay, so I asked if you had an action that people could try out themselves, something they could do, whether in business or personally. Have you got an action for us?
So the action would be to get onto the B Corp website and have a look at the impact assessment. If you own a business, certainly do that. If you work within a business, you've not got to be the chief exec in order to fill out the impact assessment. You can actually go on and have a look at it yourself. And then once you've had a look at it, then take it to your manager, take it to your director, and suggest to them that that would be a great way for them to actually make progress. And if you're retired or not in business at all, then you'll know people who are in business, and just let them know about this thing called B Corp. B Corp is to business what fair trade is to coffee, and encourage them to have a look at it. And in doing that, you'll certainly be helping and playing your part. And then if any companies out there need help, there are lots of people out there, including myself, that can help them. You know, you're not alone. There's a whole bunch of local organizations throughout the UK and throughout the world that have done this. They're a great community, and they will be very happy to reach out and help you. And I'd obviously be happy to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that you will feel is a sense of community in amongst B Corps. If you're striving to be a better organisation, then people will pull you along and support you in any way they're able to within their capacity. So that's brilliant. Thank you for that. How about a recommendation? What would you have us go pick up, look at, read, watch, etc.?
Yeah, so my recommendation is a book called Ikigai.
Ikigai. Presumably
Ikigai.
where you learn how to say it.
Correct. There is a section in there. I couldn't write it in the Japanese mnemonics, but it's Ikigai, Ikigai.
Ikigai.
And it's subtitled "The Japanese Secret to a Long and Happy Life." And we all would love a long and happy life. So if you're interested in that, go grab the book, and you know, it's a great read.
Thank you for that. Yeah, it's nice to see books that, you know, just aren't pure business. It's about personal. To be honest, every business is made up of people. Without people, it would be nothing. Until AI takes over the world, of course, Andy. So then, are you ready to be tested in fact or fake?
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Okay, so I have...
Like we say, Russell, it's progress, not perfection.
Oh, yeah, and that's a good point. We've so often said we're about doing imperfect business, but good business. So let's start off with then 39% of executives believe that diversity and inclusion are the most important issues. That's 39% of executives believe that diversity and inclusion are the most important issues. Is that a fact or a fake?
I think that is fact. I think 39% sounds about right. Whether 39% are actually implement it, I'm not so sure. But the fact that 39% think it, I think that's fact.
It's a fake. I wildly underplayed it. It's 69% of executives think diversity and inclusion are important, but I think you're quite right. It is. Do they follow through? Yes, that's really important, but I need to get on earning a profit.
Yeah,
that's a bit true.
69%, I think, would struggle to show that their business actually puts their money where their mouth is and resource where their mouth is, and actually prove it. And even though they might say they do,
yeah,
is that open to some external scrutiny? I don't know. 69% is not my experience of the reality of the world.
No, and I think that's when you sit down and fill in a questionnaire, don't you, for somebody like Deloitte's? I think that came from, and you'll put in what you think is right, not necessarily what you're doing. Right. Okay, so men are 30% more likely to be promoted to a managerial role than a woman. Fact or fake?
I would think that's a massive fake, because I would think the facts are it's probably 70% more likely.
Well, my facts, this one is out of what to become. That says that's a fact I got there from the US estate. That is that 30% is a fact. But I think, again, hopefully that's our good statistical analysis. I'd hate to be using a duff fact on you, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But that, in fact, was a fact.
Well done.
So I'll give you. So what have I got? I picked a few for you, and I thought they were a bit interesting. But 17.7% of all Fortune 500 companies, gone a bit US on you today, have women as their CEOs. Is that a fact or a fake? That's 17.7% of Fortune 500 companies have women as CEOs.
I'm going to say that's fact. I think that probably is about right.
Sorry, I've whitewashed you there on
Right.
a 6.6%. I mean, I wildly overplayed it. 6.6% of Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, because it was Fortune 500, I thought that would be slightly above industry average, but obviously they've still got a lot to do.
They have,
It's,
and
it's bizarre that 69% say that, you know, diversity and inclusion and people and planet is important, but only 16% have got female CEOs. There's your
yeah.
proof of the pudding right there.
And we've got an interview in the series with somebody who runs or is on the board of women CEOs, one of the B Corp's movement, women CEOs, We the Change.
Yeah.
Brilliantly inspiring conversation we're going to have on that as well. So it is an injustice, isn't it? And as you say, we should be, and it's definitely something that the B Corps covers, is how we are being more inclusive, how we being more diverse.
Sure.
So with that stunning win on my behalf,
Nice one. Well,
I
I've obviously got to make a lot more progress before I hit perfection, but we're on a journey.
And I did throw you into the US stats, but I'll accept the win very graciously. And
Yeah,
it just leaves me to thank you very much, Andy, for joining us.
Russell, it's been a pleasure. See you around.
We really hope that you found this special B Corp Month episode both informative and entertaining. Make sure you don't miss any of the 31 interviews with B corporations who are striving to be a force for good. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss a thing, and don't forget to spread the word with others. If you have any questions about being or becoming a B Corp or any comments and suggestions about the show, please do get in touch. You can email studio@greenelephant.show or visit the website greenelephant.show, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube or Twitter by searching for Green Elipod or The Green Elephant Show. You can also review the show on Google and Apple Podcasts. Join us tomorrow and we hope you have a sustainable day.